Before we get into it, remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Is obesity a choice? This is a tough question, and a lot of people seem to think about it something like this, where you have an obese button on the left.
The redhead chaos mod is amazing now? Why? What did I change?
And a not obese button on the right. And anyone who is currently obese is obese because they made a conscious decision to press the obese button. But I don't think that's how it works. I mean, for starters, if you selected 100 people at random and gave them the option, my guess is that almost every one of them would press the not obese button. People know about the potential health risks and social stigma that can come with being obese, so virtually no one would consciously choose to be obese in this simplistic sense.
No,
Maybe
of course not.
More
It's
like
a food addiction.
This, where you have this lifelong continuous series of choices to pick certain foods over others, like whether to order fried chicken or grilled chicken.
Honestly, this kind of looks better here in this picture.
Regular Coke or Diet Coke, a small fries,
Ugh,
or supersized
Coke.
fries, and certain behaviors over others, like whether to get up and exercise or stay on the couch.
Am I the only one that thinks Coke Zero is by far the best Coke?
And over time, maybe it's the cumulative effect of these many individual choices that causes someone to become obese. I do think this is a bit closer to reality. However, even this analogy is still very incomplete. Consider this graph taken from a 1990 study where 24 subjects were overfed by 1,000 calories per day for 100 days, or just over 3 months. All the subjects were under 24/7 supervision by the research staff, so we can be confident they were actually following the protocol. Each one of these bars represents a single person, and the height of the bar represents how much weight they gained in response to the same 1,000 calorie surplus. This person, over here on the left, only gained an extra 10 pounds, while this person, over here on the right, gained an extra 30 pounds while eating the same 1,000 calories extra per day. This could be due to a number of factors, but a big one is genetic differences in metabolism. Looking at
no way that big of a difference, just genetics. What is this? I don't understand this graph, actually. Why does it say 1 here? Wait, what are these, the numbers, what do they mean? Oh, I get it now. That's just person 1. Chat, I was so confused. I wasn't listening to the guy. I was just looking at the diagram, you know? So I was like, this guy gained 1, this guy gained 2. Oh, I'm pretty dumb, actually. I need to go get coffee, so I wake up.
Factors, but a big one is genetic differences in metabolism. Looking at this later study from 2018, we can see that just like there are large differences in weight gain, there are also large differences in how many
calories per D. What does that mean? Difference? Calories per what? Minus 250 plus 150. So there's a 350 calorie difference between the two most extremes, which ultimately still is just like 1 chocolate bar.
Calories people burn at rest, just sitting on the couch doing nothing at all. This lucky person over here burns about 150 calories more than metabolic equations predict, and this person on the left would burn 250 calories less than metabolic equations predict. In other words, if none of these people exercised at all, this person would still burn about 400 calories more per day than this person. So, going back to the buttons, a small fries from McDonald's has about 200 calories, and a supersized fries has about 600
How many people are going to link this video now and be like, hey, look, it's my genetics?
All else being equal, that's a 400 calorie surplus if you choose to supersize. But this person also burns 400 calories more. So through no action of their own, they could choose to supersize every time, and their net caloric balance would be exactly the same as this other person who chooses the small fries. But this only considers resting energy expenditure, the number of calories you burn at rest. People also burn calories through exercise, the thermic effect of food, and something called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. The NEAT component of metabolism can vary dramatically between individuals, even more than resting energy expenditure. NEAT refers to the calories you burn from daily activities that aren't actual exercise. So stuff like fidgeting, tapping your feet, etc. And even though you can somewhat modify your NEAT levels by making an extra effort to move around a bit more throughout the day, NEAT is still largely subconsciously regulated in the brain, and it's dynamic. So if you have a genetic predisposition for low NEAT, you aren't very hyperactive, and you don't fidget much, and let's say you tried to force yourself to fidget more, in many cases, your brain would simply find a way to lower NEAT someplace else. So NEAT is, to a significant degree, outside of your control, and it can differ enormously between individuals. This study from Levine and colleagues overfed participants by 1,000 calories per day for 8 weeks and found that NEAT levels ranged from -98, they actually less, to plus.
Yeah, this is why I can't be bigger. I have too much NEAT. Feels NymnGay is burning away all my calories.
692 calories per day. This means that while both of these subjects ate an extra 1,000 calories per day, this person quite literally fidgeted off about 700 of those extra 1,000.
Now I have my Fitbit, so I know exactly how many I'm burning. Well, not
exactly. Body had to
but
deal with all those extra 1,000 calories eaten, plus a little more. So clearly,
I have already burnt 1,200 calories today, and I've done fuck all. Also, this is my voice now.
Anyone who's been genetically blessed with a high resting metabolic rate and high NEAT levels can choose to press the junk food button many more times.
Because you burn calories even when resting.
Still maintain a lower body weight compared to someone who's not as
Your brain needs calories, your heart needs calories, the whole body, even if you're sitting down, it's still going to be burning calories.
Metabolically gifted. And this matches with our everyday experience. We all know someone who can eat whatever they want and remain almost inexplicably thin. No. We all know someone who's tried every diet book on the shelf, yet remains overweight. Now, most people would be quick to praise the thin person for their discipline and critique the overweight person for simply lacking willpower and making the wrong choices, not realizing the many baseline genetic factors that could be making it very easy for the thin person to stay thin and making it very hard for the overweight person to lose any weight at all.
Come on, why is he giving them an out like this?
Metabolism. There's another big factor.
You learn your body, though. You live with your body all of your life. You know what your body feels good from and what it doesn't, and how you need to adapt in order to stay in shape. I don't know.
To lose any weight at all. But that's just metabolism. There's another big factor here, which is hunger.
God damn, his legs are
some
thick.
People simply experience more hunger than others in response to dieting. Some people feel like they're constantly fighting their body's urge to eat more, while others feel more normal hunger, where it's low after meals and picks up as it gets closer to mealtime. Just consider this hunger study from 2013, which looked at the difference between eating a high-fat meal and a low-fat meal. Now, it turns out both the high-fat meal and the low-fat meal were able to suppress hunger very well on average. However,
when that science, yeah, but I just don't find it that relevant. Take a country with a really high proportion of people that are really fat. Would you say that they just happen to have more people that are suffering from bad metabolic rates? I think not. So I just think, I think this is a thing that's worth knowing of. I think very often, I'm not sure it's very relevant to the discussion, because ultimately it comes down to 100, 200 calories in one direction or the other. And that doesn't, if you're eating 5,000 calories a day, it doesn't matter if you burn those extra couple of hundred calories or not.
Into individual subjects, you suddenly see this huge disparity between individuals. Some people were still quite hungry after eating the meal, others felt very full. And since hunger is what naturally drives food intake,
okay, that's a fair point though. That sucks.
Once again see that someone who still feels very hungry after a meal will have a harder time stopping compared to someone who feels full. So we've covered two genetic factors explaining why weight gain happens to some people more easily than others, even given the same food and exercise choices. But there are still so many other biological factors that can play a role, such as whether or not you take certain medications that can increase appetite and water retention. There are also neuroendocrine conditions that can impact weight gain through hormones and metabolism. Then there's pregnancy and menopause, which have hormonal and metabolic impacts, and physical disabilities, which makes burning calories through NEAT and exercise more challenging. Now, of course, all of this doesn't mean that calories in, calories out only works for some people. It is a simple fact that obesity results from eating more calories than you burn, and tightly controlled metabolic ward experiments repeatedly confirm that caloric intake is the driver of both fat loss and fat gain. So this means that anyone who is obese got obese by eating in a sustained caloric surplus over time. It's just that avoiding that sustained surplus is so much harder for some people than it is for others, and for reasons that are beyond their choosing. And this is why I think it's incorrect to reduce all of these factors down to a simple choice to be obese or not. Because if that were the case, why would obesity rates suddenly start trending up in the 1970s? Did people just suddenly start choosing
McDonald's
to be obese? Or is there yet another layer to this? Well, no. I don't think that the spike was due to more people choosing to be obese, but rather from the fact that high-calorie foods became so much more readily available for cheaper prices, meaning more people had more access to delicious, highly processed,
the beginning of the end right here.
And this leads us into the whole other side of this, which is the environmental factors. So entirely apart from the genetic and biological factors that we just went through, there are also environmental factors that can impact your susceptibility to obesity. This includes stuff like the food environment, where apart from the spike in availability, we also see better, flashier marketing for high-calorie foods that promote overconsumption and large portion sizes. There's also the fact that junk food tends to be cheaper, meaning it's more accessible.
I feel really bad for kids that grew up on really bad diets where their parents are just ordering pizza and McDonald's every day. And then the kid grows up, gets fat, and by the time they're grown-ups, they're like already super addicted to junk food, and it's all they've ever known.
For people of lower economic incomes. Then there are social factors, like the type of diet your family and friends eat, which can make it a lot harder, or in the case of dependents like children, virtually impossible to make so-called good
all
choices.
Streamers?
Then there are the lifestyle factors.
I think there's a lot of
like
streamers that applies to.
And while it may be tempting to tell people...
Or do you mean all streamers? Do you mean the kids of all streamers? God, but Erob makes pretty good food for his kid though, right? Right?
Get more sleep, that isn't always feasible depending on work and other responsibilities. In fact, this 2017 meta-analysis found that night shift work was associated with a 23% higher risk of being overweight, and this 2019 meta-analysis
Chat, this is why I don't stream throughout the night.
Found a dose-response relationship between sleep duration and obesity risk. Less sleep meant more risk of being obese, 7 to 8 hours being the sweet spot.
The Camp Knut guys said that Erob was one of the few that was doing well with their diet. He's been making chicken and rice and stuff.
Then there are psychological factors like stress and depression. This 2010 meta-analysis of 14 studies found that stress was a risk factor for weight gain, and this other meta-analysis from the same year found that depression was...
Chat, how many hours do you sleep on average per night?
...of obesity risk. So, coming back to the original question, is obesity a choice? Well, I think the answer is no, at least not in all cases, and certainly not in the simplistic
See how many hours
sense.
I got this
There's
night.
just too much of an influence from genetics and environment.
Wait, really?
To shift the blame entirely.
Damn, I only slept 6 hours 50. That's okay though. That's fine. You can function on that, but
the individual for their circumstance. But that also doesn't mean that no one has any control.
7 to 7.5 hours is like my ideal.
Clearly, if people want to lose weight, even if there are many factors working against them, such as low metabolic rate, high hunger, and so forth, it's still possible to lose weight if you sustain a caloric deficit over time. And I can link another video here explaining exactly how to do that, which goes beyond simply eating less calories and delves into behavioral modifications that most people will need to make to have long-term success. Ultimately, though, I think the is obesity a choice question comes back to semantics. Perhaps what I mean by choice is slightly different from what you mean by choice, but I think that if you did want to argue that it is a choice in some sense, I think the best you could do is say that it's a complex series of choices intertwined with many other complex contributing factors.
I don't know. So, it was an interesting video still, but I think the base question is kind of whatever. It's like, is smoking a choice? Well, I mean, they're choosing to put the cigarette in the mouth. Most of them are addicted and they quit if they wanted to. And there's genetics there as well. Some people tend to get addicted a lot easier than other people to all kinds of stuff.
As people in the health and fitness space, I think we should make an effort to be more understanding of these factors and more compassionate toward people who are struggling, rather than making assumptions about their choices and their characteristics.
Is addiction an excuse?
Instead of blaming them,
no, it's an explanation why they keep doing it.
Focus on pointing them in the right direction with good, sustainable nutrition advice when they ask for it. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Mike Israetel for the button analogy.
Growing up around a smoker? Yeah, I mean, it's the same as growing up around junk food is going to make you probably way more likely to start to get fat.
And I'll also go ahead and link all the articles that I referenced in this video.
It's all about your upbringing.
Before we go, I want to thank